Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Is this the musical episode, or are we crossing over with a cartoon?
Neither one. This is a serious episode.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't need that. I need fun and goof.
We're going to have the serious episode that comes between the cartoon episode and the musical episode.
Yeah.
Wow, what a whiplash that shit.
And in case you don't know what we're talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds. While I was on vacation, the musical episode hit, and of course, Star Trek fandom is turned into almost every other fandom, and it's like, this sucks. It's not real Star Trek. They don't know what they're doing. And some people are even like, Disney just got to stop making Star Trek woke. That is wrong on so many levels, because obviously if you're saying that, you really didn't quite catch what the original Star Trek was all about. That said, that's pretty much all I want to say. So I had to avoid all that till I could get back and watch it. And then when I did watch it, between the cartoon episode where they did a crossover with Lower Decks, I mean, I was just grinning from ear to ear. I mean, when I saw Jonathan Frakes come up as director, I was like, yeah! Fortunately, I watched this when nobody else is home. Same thing with the musical episode. I was just grinning from ear to ear. And again, a mild spoiler. I mean, when Chapel sang the song to Spock and Spock's song, I'm Just the X, I was crushed. I mean, and again, in between was a very, very serious, almost serious MASH type episode. I mean, I almost
they did an episode about post-traumatic stress disorder. So you've got the episode where it's pure comedy.
Yeah.
Then you get the really serious episode about post-traumatic stress disorder.
And you're talking, this is during something we rarely see in Star Trek outside of Deep Space Nine. This is during the Klingon War. This is in the trenches. This is a field hospital, hence the MASH reference. I got nightmares from the incoming transport, because that means there's people coming in that are horribly wounded. And they're without regenerators, so they got to do things that, I don't think I've seen an episode like that since the one Deep Space Nine one, where they were in the trenches fighting against Jem'Hadar. Again, kudos on both these episodes. And then, anyways, you were talking about the serious one.
And then we get the musical.
Yay!
Which very much took the idea from the Buffy musical, in that they've had all of these emotional subplots running through the series so far this year, and they all collided in a musical episode, because musicals have, and they set out, these are the tropes of a musical. I'm not going to explain how it became a musical, because to me that was the most inventive part.
Yeah.
But it was so well done, and so I've really loved Strange New Worlds this season, and I'm going to say it again. I hate that Star Trek is on streaming, because then we only get 10 episodes a season and we have to wait a year for more.
Absolutely.
And it also means these shows are probably never going to get syndicated, because you need to have a certain number of shows to get syndicated. And if you don't have that number of shows, you're not going to syndicate them. So they're going to be kind of trapped in this streaming thing forever, until, of course, Paramount goes, oh, well, we're pulling it to see if we can sell it to somebody else. Yeah. But that's not why we're here.
Star Trek Prodigy. No. We don't want to get into the whole reason why the streaming model's broken, because there's nothing wrong in the comic world.
A lot of changes in this month's previews.
again.
Feels like I'm reading a advanced comics from Capital City in 1995.
So this is our previews episode. Couple kind of interactive if you have yours. This is for previews number 419, August 2023. The corresponding Marvel previews is number 23, and the DC Connect is number 39. So I actually got all mine because I've been getting them now directly from the source as opposed to hoping, because I still have not gotten the August previews through Discount Comic Book Service. So I decided to stop ordering it there because one thing that I always want is I want this episode in the beginning of the month so you could go to the comic shops and say, hey, dumb guy said that I should go and pick up this issue and could you add that to my order? Rather than wait till after the order date, and then especially with some of the smaller press stuff that I like to push. So
you're forgetting one, Joe.
Which one's that?
Image catalog number 2.
I wouldn't know. I never saw it.
It's digital only.
Don't care. For as far as I'm concerned, Image is dead to me.
So if you want, you can go to dcbservice.com.
Which sucks.
Even if you are not a customer, go to downloads.
Don't worry about it. Don't do it.
You'll see the DC Comics, DC Connect, Image Catalog Volume 2, and Next Phase, which is the catalog for all of the people who are exclusive through DCB service. And if you're wanting that Marvel previews, you can actually get it by going to Amazon. It's free.
All digital I can say is that now does Image have like a catalog like Marvel does that I can go to?
I don't know if they're printing it or not.
I went to preview. No, I'm not talking printing because I went to previews and it lacked. It sucked. It had nothing. It was terrible because you get
the Image catalog is 120 pages with lots of art for the new books.
Okay, then I'm not getting the right one because what I went to had one cover art and then all sorts of little tiny descriptions. So if you got the website, knock it out of the park because I found absolutely nothing. And consequently, I have nothing to talk about when we get to Image.
So what we do with these is we go through previews. We don't point out everything we're going to buy. We point out the new stuff, the collected editions, and sometimes reprints of collected editions or original graphic novels that we may have and think are pretty awesome that you might want to buy. The cover of previews this month is Gone by Jock. And I'm sorry, that tells me nothing. It's a logo in space and it says nothing is farther away than home. I know nothing about it from that image. On the back, Vampirella, Dead Flowers, written by Sarah Frazetta, who is Frank Frazetta's daughter. See covers by Colleen Turner, Sarah Frazetta. You get a new painting. And then on the spine, seems like the spine is always going to be these damn mini-mates. They have AEW mini-mates.
AEW.
So, shall we begin?
Sure.
With previews, or should we go DC, Marvel?
Let's do DC Marvel since they're separate.
All right, we'll do DC first.
All right. Well, right away, like I talked about, I don't know if I talked about it. I was on vacation last week, and a weird thing happened is when Chris and I decided we're used to watching TV going to bed, and the place we're at had DVDs, and we got the 3-run that has Godzilla King of Monster, and Kong Skull Island. We didn't want to watch Godzilla. We watched Kong, then we watched Godzilla King of the Monsters, and when we got home, we watched Godzilla versus Kong. And lo and behold, what was on the cover of DC Connect? Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. I got to tell you, I don't get much notes from Gruber when he wants, but he called me and said, Godzilla, in Kong and GLA too. So I'm like, wow. So, I mean, you can just open her up. I think it's right on page 2, some pages of the art. There's probably 500 different variant covers. It's a cataclysmic crossover event of the year as DC Image classes which legendary monsterverse in Justice League versus Kong versus Godzilla. I gave Kong top billing there. You see how I did that? What started as a routine clash between Justice League and the Legion of Doom takes a dangerous turn when the wall between worlds is breached, with Godzilla, Kong, and the monsterverse emerging on DC's Earth. I wonder if that means we'll see other monsters. So it'd be interesting to see. So, and now we have, what do you call it? The Kevin Bacon connecting everything? Because
Yes.
we already know Power Rangers have fought Godzilla. So now you have another connection here.
Charles Barkley fought Godzilla.
So
I have that comic.
I'm looking at, let's see, Jim Lee, Scott Williams are doing 1 in 100 variants. There's a foil variant. There's a Godzilla Roar Sound FX gatefold variant cover, which sounds interesting. Although it says it's, if I'm reading that right, they're saying that's $14.99. So I wonder if that has like a, you know how you get those greeting cards with the little roar inside them? You press the button and they jingle or they roar. I remember the original Kong. Oh, where is it? Oh, there it is, way up on the thing. When it came out on
King Kong VHS had that.
I don't know if it would play anymore.
I imagine the battery's dead.
Second. Yeah. No. I can feel the click. It just doesn't make the noise. So that could be interesting. So yeah, I'm definitely on this one. And I also, for those of you who speculate, this is a speculator comic too, because once they do it and once they do the graphic novel, it'll go out of print and it'll go crazy. I was talking with a friend online about the Doctor Who or the Star Trek crossovers, not the X-Men, but Planet of the Apes, Doctor Who, and I'm like, trying to find them cheap is pretty impossible because they're very, very expensive because they're out of print and they're never going to be printed again. So that's my advice. Jump on the God floor and have some fun.
Here's the one caveat I would put with that. Kong and Godzilla are currently with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is the one who made Godzilla King of the Monsters and Kong on Skull Island, etc., etc. So they may be able to keep it in print because they have the rights to those characters.
Possibly, but Legendary is not Warner Brothers. So, and I know from the past that, Toho, who has the rights to Godzilla, can be real fickle about letting rights continue or not continue, which is why we only had one printing of the Godzilla Essentials and never an omnibus or anything. Although the way omnibuses are flying left and right, there may be. So what else do you have from DC/Time Warner?
Well, DC is doing something a little odd. You know, the Justice Society story has been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed to the point where I'm wondering if it's ever going to finish. But they're doing some more Golden Age stuff. We're getting a Golden Age Sandman miniseries by Robert Venditti and Riley Rossmo. We're getting a Golden Age Flash series by Jeremy Adams and Diego Orletegui. And a Golden Age Green Lantern series by Tom Sheridan and Cian Tormey. I am buying all of these as trade paperbacks, of course, but they are spinning out of and kind of being overseen by Jeff Johns, he's in charge of the Justice Society stuff. So I love these characters anyway, especially the Golden Age Sandman. Golden Age Sandman is one of my favorite characters ever. So I'm excited about these miniseries. There is also on the next page, Amazon's Attack. No, not the original Amazon Attack. This is the new one that spins out of the Tom King story where the Amazons have been told that they need to go home.
Oh, I thought it was Amazon finally taking over all the retail in America. So, boy, did I get that one wrong.
So, Joe, what's next for you?
I will jump. By the way, that was page 11 through 14. I will jump to page 28 because the next thing I thought was interesting is the Return of Superman 30th Anniversary Special.
Yes.
And this is, they're celebrating the reign of Superman, Return of Superman. DC's brought back the original creative teams for new stories set in the wake of Superman's death. And you've got Dan Jurgens, Louise Simonson, Jerry Ordway, Carl Kessel, Travis Moore, Brent Breeding, John Bon Jovi. Damn you, Gruber. I always to call it. John Bon Jovi.
Bogdanave.
Yeah, Butch Geist, Tom Grummett, Doug Hazelwood. Covers by Dan Jurgens, multiple covers. And, of course, a foil variant by Dan, which should be kind of fun. I will probably choose... If that top one is a gatefold cover, I might choose, or a wraparound, I might choose that. But like everybody, they're on board with tons of stuff. So, but this will be fun because the original creative teams are returning. There's new stories: Superboy, Steel, the Eradicator, and the Cyborg.
For me, that's it for regular comics, except for the facsimile editions.
Oh, yeah.
We've got All American Comics number 16, which was the first Green Lantern, and Detective Comics 140, which was the first appearance of the Riddler. They are on page 35. And you get to see how comics have changed because the All American Comics number 16 was 64 pages, but by the time we got to the 50s, Detective Comics 140 was only 48 pages. And now comics are 32 pages.
Bastards.
Joe?
That's it for me. Should we trek on into the omnibus / hardcover / paperback world?
Sure.
Now, is the Dark Knight's Death Metal omnibus, is that a reprint or is that new?
Let me see.
Because it's got Death Metal Saga from Dark Knight's Death Metal 1 to 7.
No, the Dark Knight's Death Metal has never been collected as an omnibus.
God, I'm confused. So what was the omnibus that I got?
That was, what was that? Metal. First was Metal, and then there was Death Metal.
Oh, no wonder I was confused. So if I want to finish the story, I will probably need to pick this up.
Yes.
Okay. I haven't decided if I'm going to. That was just something I wanted pointed out, or I wanted to ask about, because of all the omnibuses, this would be the one I might pick up, although I haven't read the other one yet, so I don't know if it's worth picking up or not.
If you go back a page to page 43, you got Batman Killing Time. Why am I pointing this out? It's a miniseries by Tom King and David Marquez. Catwoman, Riddler, and Penguin join forces to pull off the greatest robbery in the history of Gotham City. And their prize, a mysterious and priceless artifact in the secret possession of Bruce Wayne. But what fun is a heist without a bloody double-cross or two? The blockbuster team of Tom King and David Marquez bring an epic white-knuckle action-packed tale of a young Batman desperate to recover his most prized possession from a host of violent rogues before the clock strikes the killing time. They also have a Kyle Rayner compendium on page 44. The compendiums are omnibuses, except they're paperbacks. And this is the Kyle Rayner stuff from back in the 90s when Hal Jordan went crazy and killed every Green Lantern that ever existed, and Kyle Rayner was the only Green Lantern left. And I didn't care for it then. I don't care for it now. I don't mind Kyle Rayner as a character, but I thought him as the only Green Lantern in the entire universe just didn't work for me. Joe?
Nah, they got better. When they came back, that was quite an epic. For me, I'll pop you up to page 47, and there's a couple things that I'm going to recommend if you haven't read them already. There's the Young Justice Omnibus, Peter David, Todd DeZago, Mark Waid, and others. It was a fun run, definitely worth picking up. Above it, The Question Omnibus, Volume 2.
Yes.
I have it all in comic form, and because did they reprint the letter columns in the omnibuses?
Yes.
Okay, so that may get me to buy that and seek out a number 1. That's the only reason I still have the comics. And then the 0 Hour Crisis in Time Omnibus is back. I had the 25th anniversary edition. This is the 2023 edition. I stopped reading it. The 0 Hour itself was good. The crossovers were pretty good, but eventually you run across a problem where who are these characters and why should I care? Because you won't understand who the crossovers are or why they got sucked up in the 0 Hour. But the story itself is really good. And that's it pretty much for me for DC. Again, not that I'm not buying a lot of DC. It's just these are the new stuff that caught my eye.
Yep. And next up is Marvel.
Marvelous. Oh, Cory, just start out with right on the cover.
Is that Minnie Mouse?
No, that's on the inside. I'm just talking right on the cover. You've got.
Oh, the cover I have is Minnie Mouse.
Really? No, I've got Marvel Gods.
It's Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, no, that's the Amazing Spider-Man 35 What If Disney 100 variant. What if Mickey Mouse was bitten by a radioactive spider? Which is pretty fun. But no, I'm talking on the actual physical copy. They have Marvel Gods number 1. They give us, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 glorious pages, kind of a preview, because this is Jonathan Hickman that reinvents the cosmology of the Marvel Universe. What happens when the powers that be meet the natural order of things. This is the infinite between the natural order of things and the powers that be. They're nearing an end. Old acquaintances are reunited during a Babylon event. The Lion of Wolves throws the worst parties. Don't look under the table. There's a John Wilkes Booth penny on the ground. It's a huge first issue. Features the likes of Doctor Strange, who, while not boring at all, is easily the most boring person in the book. So, a lot of variant covers coming from this one. This is the big crossover where he's pretty much redefining what we think we thought we knew about the Marvel Cosmic Universe.
And then if you go to page 11, Hickman's not done.
He's not done.
Ultimate Universe number 1, Jonathan Hickman and Stefano Caselli. After the world-shaking conclusion of Ultimate Invasion, a new team of heroes band together to save the future. From mastermind Jonathan Hickman, superstar artist Stefano Caselli, don't miss out on this foundational issue for a new line of Ultimate Comics. Now, here's the thing. The Ultimate Comics were started with a very specific purpose, and that was, gee, we've got all these movies that are about to come out, and people are going to come into a comic shop, and Spider-Man's got 25 years of history, and the X-Men have 25 years of history, and on and on and on. We want to have books that people can just pick up without knowing anything and enjoy. And that lasted for a while before they got their own convoluted continuity.
Yeah, it was kind of like a new universe for a while.
But unlike the new universe, it worked. Until Jeff Loeb killed it. Yeah. I will never let that go, by the way.
The sad thing is, it was a good story, but when you're making... I had this complaint about What If comics. If you're going to make a universe and you can continue it, yeah, it's fine. Oh, I killed off characters. I did this, I did that. But it doesn't work in the real publishing world. You can't have a cataclysmic event where half the people die because you have no one to talk about the following year.
And it changed it from, here's these characters that a new reader can pick up and read, to, oh my gosh, here's all this convoluted stuff that happened that you have to know because, well, why is Peter Parker dead? Why is this happen? Why did that happen? Why is New York City gone? You don't want to. It very much was a. I don't want to call it a jump the shark moment because that's very cliched. It was more a, oh, this would be cool, without thinking, well, what happens next?
Yeah.
And when they did the ultimatum, it really, in a lot of ways, killed the whole idea of the Ultimate Universe. Because it was no longer a book that, well, I just saw this X-Men movie. Who are these X-Men? I'm going to go pick up this book to see who they are. Nope. Half of them are dead, and they were killed in this, and this happened, and this world is very different. The Marvel Universe X-Men was easier to get into than the Ultimate Universe was. So I don't know what the mandate will be for the Ultimate Universe. I think it's very important that they have an idea for, this is what the Ultimate Universe is going to be. Otherwise, people will go, well, it's not the real Marvel Universe, so why should I care? Now, that being said, I am loving the Ultimate Invasion. Loving it. So this could be one of those things where I really like it and the rest of the comic fandom shrugs their shoulders and goes, well, it doesn't have anything to do with the Marvel Universe, so who cares? So this is one I'm going to be watching closely to see what the reaction is.
I'm going to pop you back to page 8 because I'm interested in the new Captain Marvel #1. Highest, furthest, fastest. Captain gets a permanent glow-up design by superstar artist Jen Bartel, and that's not all that's changed. Brand new look, brand new creative team, brand new status quo. Carol Danvers is one of the powerhouses of the Marvel Universe, a woman capable of harnessing the energy of the sun. So if you're coming for Earth, she's the first one you take off the board. Someone figured just how to do that. New supporting cast, new villains, both beloved and dangerously fresh. It's exhilarating new series starts here. Tons of variant covers. I will probably pick up maybe the first 6 and give it a shot, see what it's all about.
The new Spider-Man book is taking a hiatus because we're going to get a Spider-Boy #1 by Dan Slott and Paco Medina, which Secrets of Spider-Boy revealed. Spider-Boy's secret history as Spider-Man's sidekick was nearly forgotten, but now those mysteries will be revealed as they embark on a new adventure together. And then we're also going to get a new Superior Spider-Man. What page is that on? Boy, they moved it way down.
Yeah, it's like on page 30 or something.
But what it is, we're going to get a new Superior Spider-Man, and that's going to kind of take the place of the Dan Slott, Mark Bagley Spider-Man series until that story's done. The thing is, we haven't seen how we get to that yet.
Yeah.
So it's Dan Slott doing Spider-Man. I'm going to pick it up anyway. But I really wish, hey, guess what? We're putting this brand new book on hiatus for a few months for this side story. It's almost like they want this shit to fail. Joe?
Page 23. It's Jeff. He's back. The dangerously adorable Jeff Landshark returns. He's on another series of madcap adventures with guest spots by some of your favorite heroes. I absolutely loved the first one shot. And I think these were all things that were online first, right?
Yes.
But still, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to it. I'll get the one shot because Jeff is flipping his fantastic fans all over the Marvel Universe, stealing hearts and cookies with equal impunity. So again, this is issues 13 to 24 of the hit Infinity Comic series, which is on the Marvel Unlimited app.
Also on the next page, page 24, Marvel Zombies Black, White, and Blood. This is another one of those where it's a black and white book with just one color, red. And normally I would go, oh, wait till the trade paperback, et cetera, et cetera. And I probably will do that. But I want to point this out because one of the stories in this book is written by Garth Ennis, who's not written a Marvel zombie story before and hasn't written stuff at Marvel for quite a while. And it's Garth frickin' Ennis.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. It's Garth Ennis.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, on the next page, after that, we get another issue of Crypt of Shadows. Sadly, they're calling it Crypt of Shadows #1 again. This is another, they did this last year where it was short horror stories set in the Marvel Universe. This is another one. You got a whole bunch of writers, a whole bunch of artists, cover by Leno Francis Yu. I liked last year's book. I think this year's book is going to be cool as well. Joe?
Let's see.
You're jumping all over Cap Wolf and the Howling Commandos, aren't you?
We are. I am. I gotta leave something for you because I'm on 28. Hallows Eve, the big night. It's October 31st at ESU, so you know what that means. A Halloween party won't go as planned, and a bunch of powerless kids will be in a lot of trouble. Hallows Eve was once powerless and was once a victim, but now she's anything but. Her magic mask gives her the ability to help, but Eve isn't a hero, is she? So there's a one-shot, Erica Schultz, Michael Doling. So I'll give that one a shot.
Whole bunch of Fall of X tie-ins. And if you read Fall of X, you're probably going to want to say to yourself, how can they have books that tie into it? Because I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah. So I'm going to be interested to see how they do that.
Let's see. Page 29 has the spine-tingling Spider-Man. Terror continues for the Web Slinger 4-issue miniseries. After a fight with Spider-Side, Spider-Man takes on the most terrifying ride of his life. You think you're ready for the scariest Spider-Man story ever? You may stand corrected after this one. I'm still looking for, there it is, Superior Spider-Man Returns on page 35. So that'll be fun. I did want to point out, and I think it ties into what you were talking about. We'll jump to page 45. I thought it was interesting, the Invincible Iron Man 11, meet the new Hellfire Club. So it's interesting that Emma and Tony are going to try to take over the Hellfire Club, which I found intriguing. I wouldn't have guessed you'd ever squeeze Iron Man into the X-Men continuity, but we'll see how this works.
We got facsimile editions.
Yay!
X-Men 129, which was the first appearance of the Hellfire Club, and the first appearance of Kitty Pryde. Then Daredevil 183, which was the first part of a two-part story. A smart move there. With Punisher versus Daredevil. They don't get into the reason behind this. This was done as kind of a one-shot for, I forget, it was, I think New York City wanted it, but it kind of fell apart. So it was done early in Frank Miller's run when Roger McKenzie was still writing it. And then they repurposed it into 2 issues after the death of Elektra so that Frank Miller could catch up on the art because the death of Elektra issue was a 2-parter. Spoiler, by the way, for a story that came out in 1979.
She got better.
Yeah. And got her own series.
Yep.
So, Joe, what do you have?
I have nothing else comic book wise.
I don't think I have either because everything else is stuff that's been going for a while.
Oh, there was one on page 54 I wanted to mention. I believe the Marvel Tales. Let me find it here.
Yeah. Marvel Tales was really cool this month. It was Moon Knight. It has the first Werewolf by Night story. No, it's the second Werewolf by Night story.
Yeah.
So it's Moon Knight 29 and 30. Solo Avengers number 3, which was by Roger Stern. And then Mark Spector Moon Knight by Terry Cavanaugh and James Fry, which is awful. But it's worth it just for that Moon Knight 29 and 30, because that's when Bill Sienkiewicz finally was pulling out all the stops and said, yeah, I don't need to draw like Neil Adams anymore. I could draw whatever the hell I want. And I'm going. A lot of Moon Knight stuff this month, too.
Yeah.
I think for regular comics, that is it for me.
Yeah, same here.
So, thankfully, it's not going to be eating as much of my money this year. I mean, this month. But it's time for the trade paperbacks and such.
Woohoo!
Oh, we've got Black Panther by Christopher Priest, Omnibus Volume 2, which wraps up his run on the book, taking us from issue 34 to 62, the Incredible Hulk crossover, the Crew miniseries that was going to be a spinoff but didn't quite land, and then an issue of Thor that tied into it. Then, I'm pointing this out, but I'm not buying it. Moon Knight, Mark Spector Omnibus Volume 2. This is the 90s series. This is the second one. It is Moon Knight 35 through 60, Moon Knight Special Number 1, Web of Spider-Man, and then the 2 Moon Knight miniseries by Doug Mensch, a Black Panther Black Panther appearance, and then material from Marvel Comics Presents 152 to 154. These are some really fucking terrible comics. This is very 90s, very generic. Now we have a very specific image in our head of Moon Knight. Before this run, there was a very specific in our head. In this, Moon Knight's just another superhero with next to no personality. It's being passed from person to person to person to person. Terry Cavanaugh does not do a good job on the character. Chuck Dixon, I swear to God, Chuck Dixon just took some old Punisher scripts, did a search and replace, put in Moon Knight, and handed them in. We do get these Stephen Platt issues, which went for tons of money at one time.
Oh, yeah.
But did not save the book. The only thing worth reading in this are those 2 Moon Knight miniseries, because it was when Doug Mensch came back to do Moon Knight stories, and he kind of treated everything that had happened in between as, I'm ignoring all that. Sadly, they did not sell that well, so they did not relaunch Moon Knight with Doug Mensch. But this is some really skippable stuff, and I'm a Moon Knight fan. On page, what page is that? On page 94, we've got, I think this is the final collection, X Factor by Peter David, Volume 3.
Yep, I'll be getting that one.
This, boy, it's a monster, too. 1,160 pages. It's X Factor 40 through 50, and then 200, because they renumbered it. You thought they just did that stuff now. No, they've been doing it for a while. 200 through 232. And this finishes off Peter David's run on X Factor, which no one at Marvel thought would have gone that long. It's interesting because when they started the Peter David X Factor series as Madrox, they thought, it'll be a 5-issue miniseries. And it sold better than all but 2 of the X-Men books in that line. So it's like, well, shit, people want this. So they brought back X Factor, and it lasted, let's see. So if it went to issue 232, that means it lasted 82 issues. Not bad. Then the next omnibus is the Ultimate X-Men Omnibus Volume 2, which finishes up that run. We get a Thunderbolts omnibus, which is Thunderbolts Red, which was the Thunderbolts series written by Daniel Way, Chris Soule, Ben Acker, and Ben Blacker. I don't even want to know. You got all sorts of good artists on it, though. You got Steve Dillon, Phil Noto, Gabriel Hernandez Walta, Paco Diaz. This is the Thunderbolts being ran by Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk. So it's villains just being villains. It's, let's see here, it is the Red Hulk, Venom when it was Flash Thompson as Venom, Punisher, Elektra, and of course, Deadpool. Then the next omnibus, Predator, the original Year's Omnibus Volume 2. This reprints a whole lot more of the Dark Horse miniseries because Predator never had a regular series at Dark Horse. It was a series of miniseries. And then the last omnibus that I am picking up, I know, Joe, you're going to mock me, but I got to get it because I've got the others. Spider-Man Clone Saga Omnibus Volume 2, new printing, 1,040 pages, $125, finishing up the Clone Saga. And then you've got the 2 Ben Reilly volumes. That is the entire Clone Saga in 4 omnibuses. And I remember it felt like it took 100 years. I do want to recommend the Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale Hulk Gallery Edition. This is a mini-series that was done by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Jeff Loeb is one of those writers who needs a good artist for him to be any good. Tim Sale was that good artist. This reprints the Hulk Gray issues 1 through 6. Fantastic story. If you're buying the Marvel Masterworks, they're up to Marvel 2-in-1 Volume 7, which is issues 75 to 82. And we only have just one 2-in-1 Epic editions. What's up with that? We then have Invincible Iron Man Volume 17, which is the start of the Iron Man is a drunk again. Were there any other trade paperbacks that jumped out at you, or do I just finish it up?
Let me just look. No, I got nothing.
All right. I jumped to the Epic collections because to me, I think the Epic collections are pretty cool. And if it's a series that I don't want to buy in an omnibus, I might pick it up as an Epic collection. Oh, I do also want to point out Groot Uprooted, which is written by Dan Abnett and penciled by Damian Cosiero. I read the first issue because they dropped it early on Marvel Unlimited, and it's so good. It is so good. I am picking this up just because I know this is something I'm going to read over and over again. It is Groot when he is small and his first meeting with the original Captain Marvel. No, not that original Captain Marvel. Marvel's original Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel.
I think I'm reading the miniseries. I actually bought it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a reprint of the miniseries. Yep. For Star Wars, we're getting when they have Star Wars Legends, that's the stuff that was printed over at Dark Horse and is no longer continuity. They're up to the Empire Volume 8 and New Republic Volume 7. For Excalibur, they have Volume 9 in the Excalibur Epic Collection, which was the last issues of the original Excalibur 116 through 125. This was when nobody read the book and nobody cared. And X-Force Epic Collection Volume 3, still by Fabian Nicieza. The art is by Greg Capullo, Tony Daniel, Joe Madura, Rick Mays. It is... Here's the weird thing, Joe. It is only 7 issues of X-Force. But you've got an annual, you've got the Cable miniseries, you've got a Deadpool miniseries. So it's still a big, thick book, but only 7 issues of X-Force. They're reprinting a Daredevil and Avengers West Coast. And then we get an Iron Man Epic Collection Volume 6, which reprints issues 68 through 91, which is the War of the Supervillains. I have never read these issues. And then I look at the writers. Here's how you could tell this was done in the 70s. So it's, I would say, about 25 issues. Written by Mike Friedrich, Len Wein, Bill Mantlo, Barry Alfonso, Tom Orzechowski, who's a letterer, Roger Silver, Steve Gerber, Archie Goodwin, Jim Shooter, and Gary Conway. So Iron Man, kind of a hot potato. I don't want to write it. You write it. I don't want to write it. You write it. I don't want to write it. Hey, let's get the letterer to write it. Sure, why not? And there we go. That is everything that I am picking up at Marvel.
Cool.
Now, shall we do Image?
No.
Can I do Image?
If you insist.
Okay. There are only a few things I am picking up at Image. There's one that I think that fans of this podcast will like because they like you. That is on page 16, Transformers #1. It is a reboot of the Transformers, written by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. Actually, that's the writer-artist team. So, Optimus Prime was supposed to have led the Autobots to victory. Instead, the fate of Cybertron is unknown, and his allies have crash-landed far from home alongside their enemies, the Decepticons. As these titanic forces renew their war on Earth, one thing is immediately clear: the planet will never be the same. New alliances are struck, battle lines are redrawn, and humanity's only hope of survival is Optimus Prime. And it's very clear that they're going to ignore all continuity in comics before this.
Which is really what you almost got to do.
There is also a Dracula #1, which is written by James Tynion IV, drawn by Martin Simmons. This is not an adaptation of the movie, but it is branded as Universal Monsters. So they have picked up a license to the Universal versions of Dracula, Frankenstein, etc., etc. When Dr. John Stewart admits a strange new patient into his asylum, the madman tells stories of the demon who has taken residence next door, but as Dr. Stewart attempts to apply logic to the impossible, his surrogate daughter Lucy begins to fall under the spell of the twisted Count Dracula. The art is a lot like Department of Truth. And it's written by James Tynion IV, who wrote Department of Truth. So if you like Department of Truth, you will like this. You will like how this looks. I have friends who are big Universal Monsters fans. However, I don't know if this impressionistic art is going to work with them. So we'll see what happens. There was a one-shot I was looking at before I get into the trade paperbacks. Paladin of Axes by Gary Duggan, drawn by David O'Sullivan. It's the first appearance of Hector Smalley, a guitar tech known as the Paladin of Axes. He's working for the world's biggest rock band, and when he and the whole band are killed in a plane crash, it unexpectedly just the beginning of his bad times. It's a sad tale of working yourself to death, literally equal parts Evil Dead and Time Bandits. This horror comedy will put a smile on your face on one page and punch it off on the page turn. Throw your horns in the air for Paladin of Axes. 72 pages for $6.99, which I got to admit, today's world, pretty good. We do have a repackaging of Walking Dead in box sets now. If you don't already have it, the collected editions, I want to point out I Kill Giants, the 15th anniversary edition by Joe Kelly and Ken Nimura, an Eisner-nominated International Manga Award-winning fan favorite. Barbara Thorson is your young hero, a quick-witted, sharp-tongued fifth grader who isn't afraid of anything. Not the principal, not bullies, no one. But why would she be? After all, she's the only girl in the school who carries the ancient Norse warhammer in her purse and kills giants for a living. At least that's what she'll tell you. But where does the fantasy end and the reality begin? In the heart of this troubled girl. And what if she's telling the truth? This is such a good comic. This is one of those comics that after you read it, it will resonate with you for a long time. Very well done. The reviews, they actually just print a whole bunch of reviews for it. After you've read this glorious book, you'll certainly want to find a special place for it on your bookshelf. That's Chris Columbus, film producer and director. He directed Home Alone and the first Harry Potter movie. There were two big ones. First one, Moonshine, the complete collection. This is a crime comic by Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Rizzo. So if you liked 100 Bullets, this is their next book. It's a hardcover. Reprints Moonshine 1 through 28, 664 pages. Tells the story of Lou Pirlo, a city slick torpedo sent from New York to negotiate a deal with the best moonshiner in Appalachia. Lou figures it for a milk run. When he doesn't figure is that the dark woods are full of werewolves. Once bitten and cursed by the werewolf, Lou must travel to the darkest bayous of New Orleans, escape a murderous chain gang along the Mississippi, dodge a serial killer in Cleveland, finally return to his native New York, all in search of a cure. That is, if he wants to be cured. And the other one is Regression, the complete collection by Cullen Bunn and Danny Lockhart. Cullen Bunn, who does Harrow County, Six Gun, The Empty Man. Plagued by a ghastly waking nightmare, Adrian reluctantly agrees to past life regression hypnotherapy. As his consciousness is cast back through time, Adrian witnesses a scene of horrific debauchery and diabolism. Waking, he is more unsettled than before, and with good reason. Something has followed him back. Adrian finds himself in the center of an occult conspiracy, plagued by an insidious cult, haunted by visions of violence and murder. Adrian struggles to keep his sanity when everyone around him seems to have lived many lives, all of which are connected to his own in bizarre ways. Yeah, they have Telos in here, which we talked about last time. This is the hardcover. The Epic Telos Adventure is back and collected in this beautiful hardcover edition. This is a fantastic book. We reviewed it last time saying buy it. I guess it's in here again. It's going to be on sale in October. Buy it. And then the rest are ongoing series and stuff. And I know Joe does not like digital comics. But if you download the Image catalog, I like the fact that they've really, really expanded what they show you. They're showing you much more art. For the regular series, they're giving more information. It's a really good package. Again, I would like it to be printed, but it's 120 pages. I imagine the cost of printing and sending it would make it so that shops would have to charge you more for it because, as we've learned, shops lose money on previews, which I did not know. Joe?
It depends on what they do with them. So, of course, I ended up, when I had Hot Comics, I gave away like 100 previews. I would give them away to people who ordered from them. And I had about 50, 60 people that ordered regularly. When I did Crazy Comics, the smaller shop, I think I just charged, gave you a normal discount, which is what most of the stores seem to be doing. See, first up, in the normal printed previews, we come to Boom. So I got two things from Boom. First one's on page 34, called Soul Burn. It's a mini-series. Ollie Masters, Pierluigi Minotti. Fleeing a botched robbery in New York City, a junkie, her dying partner, and a dementia-ridden old man pull into a coal mining town in central Pennsylvania. Obscured by the caustic mist spewed forth by the cold seam fire from the 1960s, still burning, Trier is the perfect place to lay low, score a fix, and take a hostage. Or is it? So this is for readers that like bleak, violent world, perfect for fans of Gideon Falls and Stray Bullets. The only other thing from Boom, I just mentioned on page 38, a new Power Ranger book, Rangers Academy.
That's an interesting idea. I am not a Power Rangers fan, but if I was one, I would be all over this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like if you had a chance to join Power Rangers, would you do it? And that's it for me for Boom.
I am picking them up as trade paperbacks, but Abbott 1979 is the final miniseries in the 3 miniseries cycle by Saladin Ahmed and Sami Kivelä. On the eve of the 1980s and the Reagan administration, Detroit is burdened by an oppressive darkness, both political and supernatural. Dejected and tough tabloid reporter Elena Abbott, who previously defeated the occult forces responsible for her husband's death, must dig herself out from rock bottom if she's going to save Detroit from the Umbra one last time. And they do have on the next page, if you missed Berserker #1, now you can pick it up again, this time in black and white.
Yay!
I'll say this for Boom, they know where their bread is buttered, and if you didn't buy it once, well, we're going to try again. Oh, you didn't buy that? Try it again. Oh, here's the, how many times have they put out Something is Killing the Children #1?
I don't know. The last batch I got was the David Mack covers. And I'm buying it mostly in the hardcover. So if they ever get another hardcover out, I'll pick it up.
And next up is Dynamite.
Woohoo!
Joe, do you have anything at Dynamite?
Quite a bit, actually. Mostly things to point out. On page 78, aforementioned new Vampirella series, Vampirella Dead Flowers, #1, written by Sarah Frazetta and Bob Freeman. So more than 50 years ago, legendary Frank Frazetta ushered the now iconic Vampirella onto the pulp culture stage with his singular cover painting for Vampirella magazine #1. Now in 2023, Sarah Frazetta brings her grandfather's legacy full circle as she takes the reins in a brand new series featuring Draculan's favorite daughter. Tons of variant covers. Pick and choose whatever you want. No autographed. You know, I love those autograph books. Couple pages of preview art, preview covers, and then on page 82, an interview with Sarah and Bob talking about the new series, which is always cool. In case you don't know what we're talking about, page 84 has a Vampirella magazine #1 limited facsimile edition featuring a Mosaic Frazetta homage cover by Shattered Comics artist Matt DeMasi. I was real curious what all these Shattered comic covers were because I've seen a couple of them in various auctions and stuff. Now's your chance. Here they are. You get a chance to see what they're talking about. And that same page, page 85, Vampirella magazine #1 limited facsimile edition, which is a rare collectible edition signed by the cover artist. So, I wonder who'll be going for that.
You.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for that. So, anything for you, Dynamite?
No, not really.
Well, let me just finish out. A lot of things are things that I just wanted to point out. Like if you're an Army of Darkness fan, new series starting, page 86, Army of Darkness Forever. And next page has an interview with superstar Tony Fleece discussing the series. On page 91 is the Army of Darkness movie adaptation, 30th anniversary edition hardcover, written by some guy, Sam Rami. He'll never last. And Ivan. John Bolton did the art. This is the original one way back, if you can find it, done by Dark Horse with painted art by John Bolton. This has a special interview with Bruce Campbell by Kurt Buzak, who contributed the foreword on it. 88 pages of nonstop Ash comics. Next page, 92-93, there's Army of Darkness 30th Anniversary trading cards and foil packs. If you're a Garbage Pail Kid fan, a new #1 starts on page 94. Tons of variant covers with an interview with everybody on page 96. On page 100, Alice Cooper #1. Legendary rock acts are finding themselves attacked by demonic forces. The police investigates, but there's little to nothing they can do to stop the problem. At the same time, Alice Cooper has a new album out in the midst of a promotional tour. It's great to see all his fans again, but there's a disturbing trend happening in every city. More and more of his audience appear to be undead. Complicating matters, when he goes to bed at night, he ventures into the nightmare place. When he awakens, he's in another city, standing before throngs of fans, where he meets the Archangel Gabrielle. Tons of fun, some good covers. No Alice Cooper signed, which is weird because they actually had an Alice Cooper signed comic way back when. I just couldn't afford it at the time. So the last thing I'm going to point out is, if you're a Gargoyles fan, on page 112 is the Gargoyles Halloween Special #1. Prepare to be petrified. And that's it for Dynamite.
I want to point out that on page 143 is all of Image's books. You also have on the page before that one of those little QR codes so that you can see the previews, the Image previews on the previewsworld.com. I doubt we're even going to get that.
It's not good. The Previews World thing is what I looked at, and that's what got me overwhelmed. I've got to find what you were talking about, because that actually sounds more exciting. And yes, I'm going to be buying Transformers #1.
I really doubt that they will even do this next month, because Image has moved their book trade away from Diamond.
Whew.
They announced that this week. Let's see, I will go over to the Beat, comicsbeat.com. Image ditches Diamond, takes bookstore distribution to Simon & Schuster. Diamond's doing fine, though. For all the doom and gloom, Diamond makes most of their money off games now. They don't care about comics that much. And it shows. Joe, we now move to the deluxe publishers.
Woohoo!
Did you have anything under Aftershock?
I do, actually, on page 151. Baby Teeth Omnibus. The entire Baby Teeth saga brought together in one outstanding hardcover. Having a baby when you're 16 can be tough. For Sadie Ritter, it'll be hell. She's 16, 9 months pregnant, scared out of her sweet, nerdy mind. Having a baby that young is tough, but with the support of her loving family behind her, everything should be okay. Oh, yeah, her baby is the Antichrist and going to break open the barriers between earthly and demonic planes, unleashing eternal suffering to all of humankind. Other than that, things should be fine. So this covers the entire series 1 through 20. This is on my if I can afford it, but it really sounds cool.
If you go back a couple pages to page 148, we have a recommendation from Butch.
The Butch?
The Butch.
Ooh, he has surfaced.
Well,
he
no.
Does exist.
Last time we were hanging out, he went on and on and on and on and on and on and on about this book, and Aftershock isn't printing anything new. So, Maniac of New York.
Oh, yeah.
This is the complete both of the miniseries. This eagerly anticipated hardcover collection of the complete compelling saga of New York's own Maniac Harry. 4 years ago, a mass slasher began stalking the streets of New York City. Maniac Harry is inhuman, unkillable, and unstoppable, which is why the authorities' solution has been to ignore him and let New Yorkers adapt to a world where death could strike at any minute. When Maniac Harry starts killing his way through the subway system, trauma-haunted political aide Gina Green and disgraced NYPD detective Zelda Pettibone become determined to go rogue and destroy him. But how can they fight a monster when they can't fight City Hall? This is very much somebody saw Friday the 13th, I think it's 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, and said, this sucked, I'm going to do it right. And they also do it with a different twist and a different perspective. If you are a horror / slasher fan, this is really, really well done. I was surprised how much I liked it, because I'm not that big a slasher fan, but Butch would not let me go without reading it. And I loved it because it's told from the perspective of these two people who we got to stop this killer, with the added political stuff of New York City going, since we can't stop him, why waste just ignore it. It'll go away. Which, political satire, horror, well done characters, I'm there. I liked it.
I was able to score a cheap issue out of a dollar bin, and it was good reading. Even just one issue was very, very much got me hooked into it.
And again, Aftershock, all their stuff is the stuff they've had sitting in their warehouse. So we now have 3 publishers at Diamond who are basically just using the catalog to empty their warehouse. Aftershock, Avatar, and Boundless.
Yeah. Let's see. The next thing I got is up on page 176 in Titan Comics. And it's just pointing out that Titan is listing all their their San Diego Comic-Con exclusives here for your chance to buy them. Whether or not you can or not, if they didn't sell out at the con, who knows? But you got a Conan the Barbarian exclusive from Art Germ, Conan the Barbarian 1 from Colleen Doran, Heat Seeker by Bill Sienkiewicz, A Dead by Daylight by Jay Lee, and on the other page, some more stuff. Scarlet Couture, Blade Runner 2039, and Robotech. Anything from Titan for you?
No, thank goodness, because I've been buying those Conan omnibuses that costed me an arm and a leg. We get a break this week, month, whatever.
Okay, what do you got next?
I am looking, and it does not look like I have anything from any of the other of their premier publishers.
I have one from Massive Publishing. On page 200, Hellacious. Sherry, the devil prankster's granddaughter, and the cutest Grim Reaper in hell, is honestly just trying to have fun, make new friends. She loves everything about hell. Its burning landscapes, its horrific inhabitants, and especially her demonic mother and grandfather. She has everything she wants, except a best friend. There's no one to play with. Anyone who tries them ends up pulverized, which makes Sherry a very lonely princess of the damned. So, a couple fun covers. Just sounds interesting. Regular cover, limited foil, and a video game homage. I actually found something in Zenscope, because usually we tend to pass over that, but there was something that kind of caught my eye. I have something that says Zenscope up. Oh, that's what it was. Zenscope is up front now. I was going to point that out in the previous catalog, because they used to be way in the back, Jack. Now they're up front. So you get on page 208, it was the Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu. There's Wonderland, Pale Grim Fairy Tales, and then they have Zenscope Entertainment Pulp Culture Fun Box, which tends to have all those cool variants that they're only limiting 4 per store, and those are the ones where you look. Because what confuses me about Zenscope is like there's so many covers. Some of them are commanding $50, $70, $100, if not more. Other ones are just like sitting in the dollar boxes. I guess that Pulp Culture box, there's a whole retailer program that if you buy for your shelves, you have access to these things that you and I don't. So, buddy up to your retailer, because Zen is now up front. And then, what do we got next?
Dark Horse.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what's going on with Dark Horse.
They are in the front of the everybody else section, as is IDW. I only have one thing that I want to point out. and that is the EC Archives Haunt of Fear Volume 3 is available. I always point out the EC volumes. This is, once again, a trade paperback, so you would be able to get Haunt of Fear 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 for the low, low price of $19.99. Well worth your money. Joe, did you have anything from Dark Horse?
I had 3 things. On page 217, Drive Like Hell. Bobby Ray had it made. One last big job. Then it was Splitsville, set for life with his girl by his side. Then everything went wrong, and poor, I think it's Dela, took a bullet to the brain as they made their escape. Thing is, she didn't stay dead. Now Bobby found himself plunged in a battle of otherworldly proportions, and if he wants to get out of Dodge with his skin intact, he's going to have to drive like hell. So there's that. On page 221. Where'd it go? Oh, new Stranger Things series, Stranger Things Voyages, just pointing out for your Stranger Things fans. Page 222, the complete North mythology, where they have it's everything in a slipcase, 3-in-1 deluxe oversized collection with a slipcase and a ribbon. So if you like the Neil Gaiman, Craig P. Russell, Mike Mignola, and various Norse mythology, here's your chance to get it. And as close thing to an omnibus, I think that we'll probably get.
And as expensive as an omnibus.
Yeah. IDW.
I have on page 228 Godzilla Library Collection.
Yes. Oh, yes. I'm on
This
that.
is a comprehensive line of books that will collect every comic series by IDW, beginning with Goliaths and Gangsters. It also has the Half-Century War, 120 pages for $19.99. Basically, that's 2 miniseries in one. I wish they were thicker. I wish they would put them out as like the big, thick books, but it looks like that they're going to squeeze this for as much money as they can.
Squeeze.
Joe?
Let's see, on page 235.
I do want to point out one thing about Image taking over Transformers that's different from IDW. IDW, when they get a license, they put out 4 to 5 books a month. And I always feel that that's stupid. Image, putting out 1 Transformers book. That's it. That's all. No more. You don't need 5. You don't have to flood the market. Put out 1 good book, and it will sell much better than 5 mediocre books.
Yeah. The last thing in IDW I was going to point out on page 235, 30 Days of Night Deluxe Edition Volume 1. This is the original one, the one that got everybody real excited. And here's your chance to pick it up in a deluxe edition. I haven't seen back issues or books of this anywhere. So this may be your last chance to, or a new chance, I should say, of picking it up. Let's see, going forward, what do you got next?
Page 236, Richard Stark's Parker, the complete collection. These are the novels by Richard Stark about the criminal Parker that were adapted by Darwin Cook. This is all, I think there were 4 of them. Yep, there were 4. The score, the outfit, Slaying Ground, and the man with the getaway face for $69.99. These are beautiful. These are just beautiful. Darwin Cook doing 60s crime stories. They're so good. I cannot recommend them enough. They're just beautifully drawn. So well worth it. It gets my highest recommendation. This is a book you're going to have on your shelf and take it down over and over and over.
It's on page 340 under Abstract Studio. Terry Moore's Parker Girls Omnibus, which is a collection of the Parker Girls series that they've been running. You have a choice of softcover, or for a few bucks more, get a hardcover. I mean, there's like $28.99, $31.99. So you may choose wisely. Cory.
This brings me to Archie. And while they don't have a 1,000-pager, they do have a Giant Comics Shimmer, which are their 480-page digests. And I pick up the bigger digests. I don't pick up the regular ones that are 128 or 200, and I think they're all 192 pages. They used to have 192 pages and then 256. They just have the 192 pagers and then the big, thick monster ones, and that's what the giant comics are. I'm actually in my next box today getting another one of those 1,000 pagers. Love those 1,000 pagers. Joe?
Last previews, we congratulated them for hitting 300 issues. Well, they decided on issue number 301 would be their final issue. On page 251, Gold Diggers 301. This is it. The epilogue housing, Where Are They Now? For many of Gold Digger's most popular characters. They're doing a limited print run, only 1,500 copies, a special foil cover, and price. And there's it's kind of funny that they made it to 300, and now they're doing a 301, kind of an epilogue. Cory?
I am not picking this up, but I do want to point it out because I think it's an important book in a lot of ways. On page 279, it is a hardcover that reprints the entire series, Faust.
Ooh, yeah.
This is the 500-page adult horror odyssey, reprinting all 15 issues by David Quinn and Tim Vigil. There was a point at which, when I worked at Schindler's, that first issue was going for $100, and we got it. It was basically before Wolverine became, as violent as he was. This was basically the character had 2 claws instead of 3 and ripped people apart on panel. I did not read it. I remember looking through and just being gobsmacked by the gore. Comics had not had that much gore on a page ever, really. But it was a huge success. A man seduced by power plunges into an underground urban hell dominated by madness and the mystical. Haunted by tortured love, he rages through primal hallucinations in a blood-drenched nightmare of attraction and repulsion, sex and death, revenge and reclamation. It is a hardcover, 500 pages. If you are into this sort of thing, you probably bought it via the Kickstarter, which they say killed its goal in 20 minutes. I don't know. By the time you had Hot Comics, had the heat died down over this book?
I think there was interest in it, but it wasn't a $100 book. And again, I don't think you could find it either.
Well, and also Schindler's had a market other than regular comic fans. So you had the people who came in and bought their Fangoria every month, who were not comic people who were buying Faust. I remember that because the people who bought Faust didn't buy anything else. Nothing else. Just Faust. It was a weird phenomenon.
Let's see, on page 270.
I'm actually really surprised that Tim Vigil, he only went on and did a few things here and there, but I'm really surprised that he didn't at least continue as a big artist in comics.
You make enough money, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, but I don't remember it making $100 bajillion. Although there was a movie based on it back in 2001.
That's probably enough. So that's okay. We got Battle Chasers back. So let's see, what do I got? On page 276, under A Wave Blue World, The Cauldron, A Haunting of You one-shot. Let's see, it's CZA, so let's call her Za. Isn't your typical witch. She's clumsy, inexperienced, and maybe not quite cut out for the job. But in a long lineage of witches and warlocks, she has little choice but to excel at her craft or die trying. Watch and grimace as the young witch endures the distractions of ghosts, vampires, giant spiders, and more within the confines of a haunted castle, all while attempting to summon a demon lord from the fiery pits of hell. It's a one-shot, so it sounds kind of fun.
Let's see, what did I have next? The good thing for my wallet is that there was not a lot that jumped out at me in the rest of previews. So let's see. Fantagraphics. What did I have from Fantagraphics? Because I always have something from Fantagraphics. Oh, it was Walt Disney Donald Duck, the Maharaji Donald, the complete Carl Barks Library, Volume 4, coming back into print. That had been out of print for a long, long time. And then Walt Disney Uncle Scrooge gift box set, 24 Karat Moon and Island in the Sky, which I already have those stories. But if you do not, anything by Carl Barks is well worth your money and your time. Joe?
On page 281, under Blood Moon Comics, Haunted House, A Love Story 31. A sentient house falls in love with its architect and sole occupant, but soon the architect falls for someone else and the house seeks vengeance. A tale of loss, horror, and overcoming grief. 6 issues, $4.99, starting in Blood Moon Comics. Cory?
If you go to page 331, there are 2 things on this page. One, I'm not buying. Cat Kid Comic Club. That's going to sell 1 million copies, by the way. New Deb Pilkey book. But I am pointing it out because Boris Karloff's Gold Key Mysteries. This was kickstarted a while back, and I remember I even said on the show, I'm excited that they're kickstarting it, but there's no way I'm paying $20 for a single comic. Well, I'm glad I didn't, because it's $5.99. Still too much for a 32-page comic, but there it is. They see Michael Conrad and various, Sergei Nazaroff and various. Gold Key, a company has bought up the name Gold Key, and they're going to be putting out comics under the Gold Key name. Boris Karloff Mysteries is going to be the first one. I am excited about this because I liked the Boris Karloff comic when I was a kid. I didn't like scary stuff, but Gold Key's, quote, horror comics were more kind of a weird tales rather than a horror comic, so I could get through them. Joe?
Let's see, I got page 282. Monster Cleanup Guy, 1 and 2. Both resolicited, ready to rock. Terry works for the monster community. He's their cleanup guy, covering up their misdeeds in order to keep monsters a secret. Terry operates by only 2 rules. Listen to the Lycan King's order and don't kill any monsters. So you get both issues of the 2-issue set, I believe, and different variant covers to choose from. Kind of like an interesting concept. A lot of horror stuff. Right below it on the same page, Undas Tenebras. Not everything that happens is as it seems. Father David, after a failed exorcism, experiences a crisis of faith that leads him to the question of purity of the church he serves. A mysterious woman will cross his path and offer an answer to his questions, but who is she? Will Father David be prepared for the truth? 3 issues, issue 1 starting, a lot of different covers to choose from. Cory?
If you go to page 383, no, it's not an omnibus, but it is a compendium. Rick and Morty compendium.
Yes.
336 pages for $39.99. This is the first 15 issues of the Oni Rick and Morty comic, which they should have been printing this much, much sooner. The people who buy Rick and Morty are not going to be going into comic shops. They're going to find this on a bookstore shelf and go, holy crap, there are Rick and Morty comics, and then want them all. So, and I much prefer reading stuff in the great big thick books anyway. So, Joe?
Page 288, The Gun Hand from Brilliant Enterprises. Picking up roughly 100 years after Mary Shelley's legendary novel of science fiction gone awry, the immortal monster created from Victor Frankenstein finds himself transported to the icy waters of the North to New York, 1988. Awakening in the steamship, the monster is attacked and loses his right hand at the elbow to a crewman's axe. Monster flees into the city where chance and dark magics ultimately give the monster the upper hand, a magic arm that will fight him at every turn and drag him across America on a wild and weird journey filled with action, drama, humor, and horror. Meanwhile, the Arms Masters, 3,000 miles away, are calling the arm home, unaware that Frankenstein has it. So this one actually, another one that sounds very, very interesting. It doesn't say if it's a miniseries or one shot, but something that I'll probably check out. Cory?
If you go to page 393, The Best of 2000 AD, Volume 4. I'm loving these books. These are trade paperbacks that reprint stuff from the longest running anthology comic in England, 2000 AD, which has given us everybody who worked at Vertigo. So many people who then went on to Marvel. If you were a Brit and you worked in comics, you worked at 2000 AD. I'm loving these trade paperbacks. They also have the first 3 volumes available as well. But most people, it's like, oh, it's Judge Dredd. So yeah, Judge Dredd. Joe?
On page 290, let's talk about it, A Guide to Mental Health. This sounds like it's more of a bundle type thing. So it's a warm, engaging comic, offers concrete tips for dealing with stress, getting on adequate sleep, facing substance abuse, building resilience, facing depression, addressing suicidal, reducing stigma around mental health issues. So this, again, it sounds like this is a bundle issue. Talk to your local comic shop, see about getting a copy, pass it on to someone who may need it. This is the type of thing, when I had Crazy Comics, or even Hot Comics, I probably would have made sure I always had it on the shelf just for someone to pick up. And again, I don't know what its price, but it probably is worth almost every penny. Cory?
We're already up to page 409 for me, and we've got a new issue of Alter Ego. This presents the Mark Carlson Ghost stupendous study of the 1940s novelty comic group, with heroes like Blue Bolt, Target, and the Targeteers, White Streak, Space Hawk, each produced by such golden age artists as Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, Carl Burgos, Bill Everett, Basil Wolverton, etc. Alter Ego is the magazine for golden and silver age comic book fans. It dives into stuff. The articles are very well researched. Roy Thomas is the editor. If you're not interested in golden and silver age stuff, you should pass it by. But if you're at all interested in that era, this is the book to get. They have found stuff like they found Stan Lee interviews with fanzines from the early 60s. They've interviewed artists who worked in comics in the 50s and didn't even know that anybody knew that they worked in comics in the 50s. It's an incredible resource. I absolutely love it. I pick it up every month. Joe?
All right. Back on page 292. Clarion Books, Run and Hide, How Jewish Youth Escaped the Holocaust graphic novel. You're either interested in it or you're not. I'm not going to save some time, not read about it, but this is basically stories about how children fled from the Nazi terror. It's a chance to pick it up. $22.99 hardcover. On page 299, I've got What Child Is This? The Sherlock Holmes Christmas Adventure. Again, now in paperback, illustrated by Frank Cho. I just wanted to point that out for Frank Cho fans, because a lot of times this type of stuff might go under the radar unless you're following Cho on a lot of his social media. And then on page 301, I've got, I can find it here, the title of the month under Dial Bucks, Who the F Cares? Huda and her sisters can't believe that when her parents announced that they're actually taking a vacation this summer, they're going to Disney World, but it's not quite as perfect as it seemed. First, Huda has to survive a 24-hour road trip from Michigan to Florida with her sisters, annoying her all the way. Then she can't help but notice the people staring at her and her family when they pray in public. In case you wonder, she's Muslim. I love the description, and I love the title. Who the F cares? Cory?
My last comic is on page 423. I point it out all the time because it doesn't sell real well, and a lot of people don't know about it, and that is Vampirus Carmella. We're up to issue 18, written by Don Glut, who wrote for Warren. One of the things that Warrant Publishing tries to do is they are trying to give work to people who worked at Warren magazines, Creepy, Eerie, 1999, Vampirella, etc., back in the 60s and 70s, if they're still around. They're not able to offer huge rates, but they do offer them work. I like this. It's a black and white magazine. It tries very hard to evoke that same feeling of Warren magazines. It's about as good as Warren was in the 70s. The art isn't as spectacular as Warren was, but the stories are okay, and the art is, if you like horror, you'll like it. I support this because I like the idea of it, and I like anthology horror magazines. And it's one of those where even the ones that they put out in the 80s, I'll go back and read them again, even if they weren't all that great, because there's that nostalgia factor for me. I don't know what it is. It's probably because when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to get them. And then by the time I was able to get them, Warren had gone under. So I'm buying these books. I enjoy them. And that's it for me for comics.
Holy moly, I got a lot. Let's play catch up. The aforementioned Gone. I can't even say it. TSTLRY. It's a new series on an impoverished and distant planet where menial workers scratch out a living resupplying starships. The best place to be is Gone, and that's exactly where 13-year-old Abby wants to be. Along with her street smart friends, they stow away on a colossal luxury spaceship for a better life. Unbeknownst to her and her friends are not who they seem to be. Suddenly she finds herself branded a saboteur as she desperately struggles to evade the ship's deadly crew to stay alive. Starts on page 306, a couple different pages, some artwork to preview. On page 327, as I flip forward, a couple things to point out. If you've never read Dark Tour, Stephen King's The Dark Tour Gunslinger Omnibus for $100. You know we're big on omnibuses. Above it, Patrick Stewart's memoirs, Make It So. This is all from Gallery.
I do want to point out one thing about those Stephen King omnibuses.
Omnibuses.
That just came out today.
Oh, really? So they're behind the times.
Well, the colorist on it, Richard Osanave, said that when those books went from Marvel over to the new publisher said, no, that was all work for hire. We don't have to pay you any royalties. We don't even have to give you comp copies of what you did. So some of the people involved in those, like Peter David, are looking at maybe doing what people had to do with Disney, which is get some lawyers to start saying that's not how the contracts work.
Okay, so skip that. Don't buy it. Page 332, limited edition variants from Graffiti Designs. You got Batman Superman, Michael Turner variant for $125. Batman Frank Miller Returns, Frank Miller variant editions. These are deluxe, large format hardcover books, high resolution. If you're into that type of thing, definitely want to check it out. Page 335, Mother Goth Rhymes. It's presenting chilling rhymes and illustrations of Mother Goth in her debut book. Mother Goth Rhymes invites you into her world of grim, gruesome tales that celebrate the macabre and a selection of poems created especially for you. I'm going to probably pick this up as a Christmas gift, but I'm not quite sure who I want to give it to. Humanoids Press, 336 page that is. Golden Voice, the Ballad of Cambodian Rock's Lost Queen. Again, caught my attention. If it catches yours, go to page 336. You got a couple pages checking it out. You know, preview pages, which is really nice because that'll pretty much determine whether or not you want to pick it up or not. Page 347. Dun, dun, dun. I can't sure if I pronounce it right. Carthago Kane. From the world of Carthago comes the story of Kane. It's a mermaid from a storied suburban society escapes his capture by a billionaire researcher who specializes in study of mythological creatures, including the fabled Megalodon. This is a graphic novel. It's a little more expensive, $20, but a couple pieces of art. You can decide if it's. I do like the preview art, so you can decide whether or not you want to put your hard-earned money. Because I'm infinitely rich. I won the Mega Millions. I'm telling everybody what they should buy. Such as on page 355, the enormous Volume 1 Extinction Level Event. In the midst of a planetary crisis for food and fuel, a vast ecological cataclysm has spawned the enormous. Massive beasts unlike anything ever witnessed. Displaced from atop the food chain, humankind struggles to stave off extinction, and a shattered society scrambles for refuge in the wake of this monstrous rampaging. $24.99 graphic novel. Page 358, jungle drama. What do you get when two beautiful jungle girls set their sights on the same dreamy jungle hunk? You get drama, jungle drama. What stunts these two beauties to pull, or what the stunts they pull to get the guy of their collector dreams? Well, check it out. Bunch of covers to pick up. Kind of an Betty Veronica Archie type parody type thing going on, if you know what I mean. Page 359 has I believe this is the first quarterly Knights of the Dinner Table book. So if you've missed it for the last couple of months, don't miss it because it's out now. Page 361, MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios hardcover. This is from Live Right. How did an upstart studio conquer the world? In MCU culture writers Joanna Robinson, David Gonzalez, and Gavin Edwards drawn more than 100 interviews with actors, producers, directors, and writers to present the definitive chronicle of Marvel Studios and its sole ongoing productions. We've talked about it before. When Iron Man came out, people didn't think it was going to do anything. Robert Downey Jr., you got to be kidding me. He's such a wash-up act. So this is more of a reference book. If you're really into the behind-the-scenes stuff, you definitely want to check it out. All right, coming to the last 10, page 364, The Devil That Wears My Face. This is from Mad Cave. 1740. The Vatican is in turmoil, grappling with a profound crisis of faith. Outcast exorcist Father Franco Ferrit is dispatched on a mission of grave importance to rescue a Spanish nobleman from the clutches of the sadistic demon known as Legion. But when the exorcism goes tragically wrong, it's the second time that's happened this month, he finds himself trapped in a stranger's body and learns what horror lies ahead when the devil wears his face. On page 375, as I jump forward, January 1996, high school junior Christine wants more than anything to be that cool girl everyone notices, like her gorgeous best friend Laundry. She usually hates New Year's resolutions, but this year she vows to be that shiny kind of girl and recorded in her diary through prose, illustrations, and comics. However, Laundry drops her. Christine is surprised to discover just how much she doesn't miss her and her drama. So kind of a slice of life type book. Page 411. So I jump forward since you covered the Brick and Morty Omnibus. There it is. If you're a Futurama fan, Nightmare Before Xmas Futurama Christmas Story hardcover. So you can get this. It's fully authorized, fully outlandishly poem of tidings and terror, written by, of course, Matt Groening. In case you didn't notice, Futurama is back on Netflix, and it is pretty good. On page 4, did you talk about Erotic number 30?
No.
Okay, I just remember you were talking about Tim Vigil. I guess this is just one of those weird things. Let me see if I can find it here. Page 423. Because out of the blue, suddenly Verotic is publishing an issue. And Verotic number 30. I have no idea when number 29 was covered. But this is, let's see, Glenn Danzig's book. You talked about a book that was really hot when I had my shop. Verotic was one of them. Of course, I had to leave it up high with the Vertigo stuff because it was one of those you didn't want kids to get a hold of. So you want to check this one out because I don't think people who probably remember this book are probably not listening to comics or podcasts anymore. but it's there and it's coming out. Page 460. I believe I'm diving into manga, so these will be just things I'll point out in case you missed it. The Essential Anime. It's a book basically just talking about 50 iconic films and an anime guide. It's $24.99. Again, it covers things I've heard of: Akira, Princess Mononoke, Astro Boy, Sailor Moon. But if you're really interested in manga, this would be the type of guide, the reference book that you'd want to pick up and give you a chance to check it. If I can ever get Turbo to sit down and figure out how to work a MP3, the guy knows anime back and forth. He's always telling me about new series and stuff, so hopefully I can talk him into it. On page 475, Gilothiquic Film Korea hardcover. Another reference book dealing with smash hits such as Parasite, to cult favorites Old Boy, The Handmaiden, and Train to Busan. This is Korea's cinema, a hotbed of creative talent and force behind the most exciting, captivating filmmaking in the world right now. Another guide that, if you can afford it, definitely be worth picking up. And finally, on the comic side of things, page 4, right across from it, 474, another reference book, Osamu Dazi, No Longer Human, graphic novel. This is the manga version of novelist Osamu Daze, masterpiece No Longer Human. It's the #2 best-selling novel of all time in Japan. Now it's in graphic novel form. So just things to point out if you got a little extra money to pick up. You ready, Cory? Should we flip the book over?
Sure.
And now a section we call For Brian. And as you know, Brian, of course, is a raving pop figure maniac. And we would be remiss if we didn't point out some of the coolest pop figures that Brian's going to pick up and put on his shelf. Such as on page 32M, you've got the pop comic cover Marvel X-Men 101 vinyl figure, which has a pop Phoenix and then, of course, a print of X-Men 101. Underneath it is one for Star Trek #1, which is a vinyl Spock and the cover to the iconic Star Trek Gold Key #1, the first one that started it all. Where Enterprise lands on the planet, it shoots out beams and all sorts of fun stuff. On page 33, it's bad when right there. If you're a fan of Kikkoman soy sauce, there you've got a Kikkoman soy sauce vinyl figure, which I know Brian will want to put right on his shelf. And of course, on page 34, there you've got the Crow from the movies vinyl figure, all in pop form. And if that ain't enough, way back on page 84, well, that's something different. So those are the pop figures Brian's going to pick for the month. Oh, boy, I wish he wasn't such a pop fanatic, because there's a lot of other cool figures out there. Cory, what kind of things do you have that Brian? These are must-buys for Brian.
Joe, go to page 41.
41. Oh,
Teen
hey.
Titans.
Yes.
Marvel Previews exclusive San Diego Comic-Con 2023 lunchbox and beverage container. Mix up your munchies with the mystical world of Man-Thing.
I don't know if I want your Man-Thing all over my lunch.
Well, too bad.
I mean, I could see you buying the fleece towel above.
Nope, I'm getting the
I'm
getting the Man-Thing lunchbox, baby. Limited to only 2,500 pieces.
Well, if you really want, on page 43, you have there's a Chucky lunchbox. You got a Wednesday from the Addams Family in her dance mode, and then there's a Teen Titans Nevermore Academy logo. So that seems to be the new thing. I used to sell lunchboxes in my shop, but now they're actually coming with thermoses. So I think that's kind of cool.
Just like they did in the 70s.
Yep.
And it says it can be either for cold beverages or soup.
Ooh.
The Man Thing logo is included, adding an extra touch of magic to your meals. I want me a Man Thing lunchbox. And that is it for me.
Well, on page 73, there's a ton of figures that Brian can choose from. We're talking things like Judge Dredd, Judge Hershey, who's the badass ass judge. I mean, she's the chief judge, right? And then
she was.
Purgatory. Underneath it is Red Sonja. There's Vampirella. But I know Brian's going to get the Disney Ultimates Wave 2 Fantasia Hippo figure. Because, I mean, why else wouldn't you want that? In case you know, I was all excited about what's on page 84, Doctors and Daleks Role-Playing Collector Edition hardcover. Only $149.99, but if you want to play Doctor Who role-playing game, there's your chance to pick it all up and go for it. That's all.
You know what else you could do with your time and money?
What?
Protect yourself with these guys, our sponsors. Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files that backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
Cool.
I'm looking up lunchboxes on the eBays, and I'm not seeing a Man Thing lunchbox. Now, they were a San Diego exclusive, right?
They're supposed to be, yeah.
Looking again. All right, there's one for $35. Another one for $35. Somebody's got it for $59.99, $39.95. So you buy it from the previews. It's a bargain, kids.
Cool.
We don't have time for our retro reviews.
No, never on the previews episode because we talk a lot.
And it's time for freaking and geeking. Okay, Joe, what are you freaking on this week?
I hate to get ultra serious, but Cory and I have a friend, we're not mentioning who they are, that is in serious trouble. And they have started a GoFundMe. The key is they don't want this GoFundMe to be public because the people that they're trying to avoid might see it. What I'm asking you, our listeners, is if you are able to donate any money to help this person, contact Cory and I. Now, I'm not looking for someone to contact us and say, hey, what's going on? Who is it? Things like that. We're not going to tell you. We have to respect this person's privacy. But you got 10, 15, 20, $100. Did you just win the Mega Millions? You can give them 30, 40, 50 grand. Great. Contact us directly. I'm going to want you to tell us how much you will commit to donating, and we will send you the GoFundMe link. Again, don't contact us just to get the gossip or hear what's going on. Much as I want to help this person, I have to respect their request to be private, but I do know you, the listeners, have been very helpful in the past. So again, you know how to get a hold of Cory and I, Facebook, email, whatever. If you can help, please do. What you freaking on, Cory?
Well, Joe, here's what I'm freaking on. I'm going to make it quick because it's a previous episode. Max has been celebrating the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers. And I'll talk more about that next week. But the freaking I have is the DC documentary they had on Max. Have you seen it yet?
Yes, I have.
Everything about it was, well, here are these comics. They made great movies. They made great TV shows. They made great video games. They made great movies. Oh, we can't wait to strip mine this stuff for more movies and TV shows. Utterly dismissed a lot of the comic creators. I did like the fact that they hyped the New 52 as the greatest thing since sliced bread. Did not talk about the fact that within 6 months of the New 52 started, sales were below where they were before the New 52. So they didn't talk about how they've had to clean it up 3 times since then. Nope, New 52, brilliant idea, saved the company. The other thing that I am freaking on, I cover AEW, All Elite Wrestling, for PWInsiderElite.com. Normally, I cover the pay-per-views. But in August, we have a pay-per-view on the 26th out of England. That will be $50. And then we have another pay-per-view on September 3rd. That'll be $50. So within 8 days, AEW wants me to fork over $100 for their 2 pay-per-views. Now, I didn't like it when WWE had a pay-per-view a month. I definitely do not like it when AEW is going to have 2 pay-per-views in 8 days. Guys, I'm not made of money. Listen to all the damn omnibuses I'm buying. I can't afford $100 for wrestling. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Well, I went on vacation last week, and it was great. It was awesome to get away. We went to places. I don't know if I'm going to expound on where I went, but I did visit a few comic stores. I mentioned that Tim from Granite City had something special for me. He got me one of those artist proofs from the private collection of Jim Starlin, which is signed. I got a Warlock 11 that's signed. In the previews and the Dynamic Forces, they're offering different books. And Tim was actually very surprised that he got this. So I was happy he ordered it for me. I'm happy I got it. As we headed north, I stopped in Alexandria, Minnesota, and visited Hidden Treasures Collectible and Comics, located in the Alexandria Viking Plaza Mall, which is 3015 Highway 29 South in Alexandria. Cory, it was like when we went to Gamer's Den. You know, Google doesn't have a really good way of saying, hey, it's inside the mall. No, it's over here. No, it's over here. It's over here. I know what it's doing. It's in the mall. Really cool store. I'm going to coin a new phrase for when I visit shops. It's a digger store. This shop is half knickknacks, treasures, things like that. The other half is comics and toys. I did not have time to dig through everything, but if we ever want to take a trip and just go north, Cory, this would be a place to hit and dig through their back issues because it was fun. I did pick up a Gen 13 version 2.0 paperback by Shawley Fish because I'd never seen it before and I thought that would be kind of cool. So the next stop was in Park Rapids, where I visited the Final Frontier Toys and More. Again, another digger shop. This shop is set up a lot like K&B Collectibles, where it's no new comics. Same thing with the other one. Tons of books, tons of graphic novels, records, toys, vintage things. Just a blast to go through. Another place where I just out of time and didn't really have enough to go through. I did pick up, let's see, where were we? I did pick up a couple things. I picked up a X-Men 2099. He had a sale going, so I got the original blue cover and the gold cover. And then I picked up a Walt Disney Sorrow. This must have been under 4-color because it says it's 9 76, which has a photograph cover, which is very, very cool. Again, a fun store. I met Steve there. I didn't meet the owner, but just if you got time to go to Park Rapids, the reason I did get to go in there because I did stop at a place called Jeweler of the North. Used to be on the North Shore, now downtown Park Rapids. And I bought Chris a very expensive ring. So the last comic shop I visited was Roy's Comics up in downtown Bemidji, 210 3rd Street Northwest, the same street that you see the giant Babe the Blue Ox and Paul Bunyan. Another outstanding digger store. And he has everything labeled, everything in order, romance comics here, TV comics here. I asked him, do you have a certain comics? He went over, he pointed them out to me. Just a ton of fun stuff. I picked up a few copies of some really weird things. I picked up a Marvel Tales 153. What would you do if you were the last man on Earth? A couple My Loves, Freddy Hot Rodder, which I'd never seen before, Going Steady, which was Volume 4, Number 1, which was the last issue. And I also picked up a couple other things. I picked up a Babylon 5 security manual guide, which I don't know if it's a game or just one of those, reference books. And the owner, Roy, apparently has written a book called MacGuffin, a novel by Roy C. Booth and John F. Mullard. I'll read the back. Hollywood, California, August 2005. Double murder of Beverly Hills plastic surgeon and his fiancée leaves LAPD homicide detectives baffled. Signed to assist in the investigation, FBI Special Agent Haley Murch has a theory. Were the slangs a copycat of the 1969 Manson murders, or were they work of someone else altogether? Someone elusive. Past 6 years, she had researched the exploits of a notorious serial killer the media had come to call the Hollywood Walk of Fame killer whose calling card matched those left behind at the scene. To solve this mystery, it'll take LAPD's head homicide detective's obsessive knowledge of film history, his team's elite investigation skills, and Agent Murch's masterful profiling ability to thwart the serial killer. And of course, I asked that Roy sign my copy. So you can find Roy's Comics and Games and Hidden Treasures on Facebook. The other one in Park Rapids, he's got his own webpage. Again, Google it. You'll find it. These are digger stores, Cory. These are stores. If we ever decide to go north, we will go and spend hours digging through, enjoying stuff. So the only other thing I bought as I was traveling, other than knickknacks, is I picked up a copy of Born with Teeth, Kate Mulgrew's memoir. And I also somewhere, I think I picked up William Shatner's A Movie Memories, just cheap because I haven't read it in years. I got rid of my copy. Not for $3, I'll pick it up again. So it was a fun time to get away. But like I said, maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more next week when we get to freaking and geeking. Cory, what are you geeking on?
I mentioned in our last episode that I got the Defenders Volume 2 Omnibus. This reprints, let's see, Defenders number 20 through 41 with Defenders Annual and other things. This is the entire Steve Gerber run in one book, including the Marvel 2-in-1 issues that tie into it. This is so damn good. It's just so damn good. It's superhero stuff, but it's just off kilter enough that it's creative, it's unique, it's weird, it's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's all of those things and more in a regular superhero comic published by Marvel in the 70s, drawn by Sal Buscema. Ideas are thrown at you. He takes the Guardians of the Galaxy story, which when you go back and read that first Guardians of the Galaxy story, there's nothing there. It's basically, here are the characters. And he turns it into this rich future for Marvel that has been mined for years, decades. So many of the ideas that show up in later Guardian stuff, including the modern Guardian stuff, all came from Gerber, just kind of throwing out weird shit. I read it as a kid and loved it. I read it in my 20s and loved it. I'm reading it now as a middle-aged adult, and I still love it. Not because of nostalgia, but for very different reasons. Gerber's stuff is just so damn good. The other thing that I am geeking on is Tom Brevoort's blog. Tom Brevoort is an editor. He has been an editor at Marvel since the early 90s when he started as an intern, worked his way up to executive editor, not editor-in-chief. He announced something on his Facebook page, but he's being kind of cagey about it, that the publisher of Marvel came to him and offered him an opportunity, not to be editor-in-chief, but some other really cool opportunity that he said he could not turn down. But if you go to his blog, he has old comics from his collection, and he talks about how he got them, what he thought of them at the time, what he thinks of them now, what he thinks of them as an editor, what works and what doesn't. And it's filled with pages from the comic, and it's just such a wonderful read because he's around our age. His story for getting into comics is around the same as ours, but he knows comics the way you know bags at the airport and the way I know medical benefits. He spends his whole life in them and can tell you he's forgotten more than we'll ever know about how to put together a good page, what makes a good cover. And I love when he points out this cover, here's why it's not good, here's why this book didn't sell. This cover, because of these flaws, people didn't pick it up. And when he points this stuff out, it's just one of those things where you go, well, of course. Why didn't I know that? Why didn't I think of that? Because I haven't worked in comics for 40 years. I really cannot recommend his blog enough. Just go find Tom Brevoort on Facebook. He will link to his blog constantly. Well worth a read. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for 2.5 hours.
Woo!
My voice is shot.
Oh, mine is too.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
You know, my daughter Dana's in town. They're waiting for me. I don't have time for music. Cory, pick your own. I'm out of here. Goodbye.